Whether you hail from the UK, Spain, the US, or anywhere across the world, there's a chance you've at least considered attending the Fête series, as it's become the premier EU major in the absence of Heir. With players from at least 35 countries attending, last year's champion will have to defend his crown against all of the talent from Europe and his North American travelers. But before we get into that, there's an event of similar status for a different community happening as well. While we have Fate 3 for the variety of Melee players, there is also the Not Fate P+ tournament for those who prefer their Smash served in the backrooms of the scene. Around 70 attendees will be participating in one of the largest P+ brackets not just in the EU, but in the world, with it being the 5th largest event of 2023. Also, I don't really know if it's pronounced Fate or Fête, and you guys in the comments seem to argue about it every single time we talk about a European event, and not even the tournament organizers I've talked to have given me a consistent answer, so yeah. The UK scene in particular has seen a resurgence in P+ events, and while the majority of EU events are played online, that isn't to say that there are not some hopefuls that have already proved themselves offline so far into the year. However, before we get into the mainstays, it's worth mentioning the hidden bosses and up-and-coming talent like the pair of UK players Skill and Squeechew, the online extraordinaire Hausi, as well as the Ness and Olimar main Lucretio who placed 5th at last year's Not Fate. Next is the Netherlands dual Sheik Zero Suit Samus main Epic Fall, who's been ranked as high as 7th in the Netherlands and continues to stack up 9th to 17th placements at various regional events. While Sharp is more known for their Peach's melee skill, they recently placed 1st at VFGC number 10 and making their case as the best Swedish P+ player. In similar fashion, Joshy Jam showed out at last year's Not Fate, placing 3rd. Finally, there's the rival duo of Ica and Verd, as Ica placed 1st at Pub Brawl and 2nd at Satan Smashers, whereas Verd placed 1st at Uprising and Satan Smashers. The two also tied at last year's Not Fate, and if they play at this event, you can bet they will put on a show for the audience. While Professor Pro has taken a relative backseat to the P+ scene as his last major event was Regen Online, his Snake has been known as one of the most iconic EU competitors for years. In his heyday, he took down the likes of Leffen, Mr. Els, and even the powerhouse Junebug. While he may not be in his P+ prime, to doubt this man would be a complete disregard for the legacy that his Snake has garnered over the years. I mean, after all, he has his own GR Smash video, so you gotta know he's made it. Not to mention, he just won the pre-local over some stellar English talent this past weekend, so he may look like the prof of old come top 8. King was the DK who came out of nowhere to beat Melody, the number 1 EU P+ player, and is considered a hidden boss in Spain. With placements like 4th at Las Crónicas de Narnia, 2nd at $1 Million Bait, and 3rd at Crossover Glitch, the DK specialist will be looking to make waves within top 32. iPunch is a French Mewtwo who has been ranked as high as 14th in the entirety of the European P+ community, and as of late, it would seem that he's poised to make another run, placing 3rd at both La Epic Tech and Artscade's Open Up Mets, being just behind French favorite Smash Falco 3. Consistently posting his New Age clips on Twitter, any would-be player may be stopped in their tracks as he tears his way through his EU adversaries. As previously mentioned, the current French favorite is Ike main Smash Falco 3, who has placed top 3 at 5 events in a row. This includes 2nd at both Artscade Open Up Mets and Get Stomped on 28, 3rd at both HF Land 2022 and Blastoff, and most recently their Ike won Epic Tech 3 over Kine and iPunch. This player has definitely earned the 2nd seed, however to win the tournament they'll have to get through their US adversary and recent tipped-off P+ winner, Aklo. Aklo is currently the favorite for this tournament as he's fresh off an impressive showing at Tipped Off where he took the 65-man P+ major over Dank and the number 22 player in Dirtboy. Before that, Aklo had not attended a P+ tourney since Hellbreak in December of 2022. He's clearly in form as of late and will be looking to decimate the competition and prove that even he can go against Europeans' best despite not even being ranked in P+. With all the crowd against him, he may just drop a set or two to some of the laundry list of European talent. With this being the biggest European P+ tournament since Super Farm 3 and Awakening 4 in 2018, many of the European hopefuls will be looking to put themselves and their respective countries on the map. And I hope you enjoyed a quick departure from your regularly scheduled Melee to talk about another awesome scene. Switching things back up to Melee, there's an absurd amount of both new and old talent in attendance. With that in mind, let's start with the hometown heroes. Tasked with defending Camber from the Europeans crossing the English Channel and the Americans crossing the North Atlantic, the UK is sending quite the depth of talent, including the majority of their top 10. R23 claimed the spot of 2nd best Sheik within the UK, and for good reason. He continues to put up 5th to 9th placements within the area, and while he seems to struggle at international events, he could make for good practice for the other English Sheik. The Marth Brandspeed came back from a hiatus and immediately started stacking up placements. While he sporadically placed within top 5 at domestic events in 2022, so far he's placed 3rd to Kingu and Tino at the cross-up, and he did manage to place a high of 13th at last year's installment of Fate. Perhaps with a little more practice under his belt and having to defend his number 6 spot on the UK power rankings, Brandspeed could make quite the run. I'm sorry in advance, but it's Tino time, and Fat Tino has stacked up quite the resume this year, having placed no lower than 4th at monthly events, with his lowest placement being 9th at EU Super Regional Avant La Fête. The Falco has managed to take first over Kingu and Brand Speed, but he has yet to crack the stranglehold that the top 3 has over the UK. With a bit of luck and the crowd chanting his name, who knows what the second best Falco in the United Kingdom could do. The aforementioned Kingu is one of the UK's finest mysteries attending Fate 3, especially since switching to Fox after being known as one of the best puffs in all of Europe. Since switching to Fox, he's managed to take sets off both Max and Frenzy, and has stacked up 11 second place finishes and 3 first place finishes at various UK events. Kingu's journey to the United States showed his possible matchup inconsistency though, as he placed 5th at the nightclub beating Tri-State regional bosses Jumbo Goku joints, Lewis and Ryo Beat, but also placed 65th at Collision, losing to Smuckers and Zuppy. Here at Fate, however, Kingu will be coming in as one of the hometown favorites to make a deep run. Finally, there are the top 3 who have had a vice grip on the United Kingdom since the return of offline events. Starting with Max, who has not only performed well domestically, but taken his skill across the globe, participating in events like the Samino Series, DSEA Series, and Boulevard Series all in the Netherlands, and Battle of BC5 in Canada. This is all while maintaining his spot as a UK threat, having just placed first over Professor Pro at the Jamboree. Needless to say, Max is one of the hometown favorites to upset some of the American invaders. He's big, he's red, his feet stick out of the bed, and goddamn, he also has a sick Falco. Frenzy has long been a staple of United Kingdom Melee, at one point even threatening to overtake Professor Pro's reign as the #1 player. This year, it would seem with Professor Pro taking a bit more of a backseat to competition, Frenzy has flourished, placing first at 7 out of 8 UK events he's attended and managed both a 49th place at Genesis 9 and a 4th place at UK Super Regional Avant La Fate. Frenzy managed to pick up the 47th rank in 2022, and while he has yet to return to North America since Genesis to really defend that title, his title as one of the top 10 players in all of Europe seems to be holding quite strong. Just behind Frenzy in the national rankings, but ahead of him domestically, funny how that works, Professor Pro has been the #1 player in the United Kingdom since the first documented UK PR according to Liquipedia in the winter of 2014. No matter the challenger, be it Fuzziness, Sechi, Mint, and most recently Frenzy, Professor Pro has always been the top dog. While this year he has taken a backseat to competing for the most part, playing in only 5 events, he did take wins on both Malachi and KJH at BEMI, and has placed first at 2 out of 3 of his UK events, with his biggest underperformance coming from Avant La Fate, where he lost to the aforementioned Frenzy and German Fox Icy's main Nikki. Prof's legacy needs no introduction, as he has various highlight moments from his more than decade-long career. While the UK is home to their mid-tier oddities in Okamede's Pikachu and Squeechew's Game & Watch, there are others throughout Europe that cater to a more diverse palette for spectators. Up next is the talent around the rest of Europe, be it France's Luigi Main Madness or the Danish DK monster Mo, who was recently sponsored by Melee Stats to compete at Fate 3, Gommel, and SmashCon, meaning this will be the first of many opportunities for him to break through the international scene. There's also the Netherlands #1 Skullbro, whose Dr. Mario has racked up various top 3 placements at the DSEA bi-weeklies and a surprising 17th at the nightclub local and 49th at Collision. His biggest runs into the year so far came at both Samito iterations, as he placed 3rd at the first, losing to Max and Stin, and 2nd at the second, trading sets with French Falco Mahi. Lastly, there's the Luigi veteran Ja Raiden, who's been long considered the best mid-tier player in all of Europe. He's proven himself time and time again, but this year he's placed an impressive 2nd at Arca Mini 13, 9th at the nightclub pre-local, 17th at Collision, 3rd at Avant La Fate, and top 2 at various EU monthlies, netting Ja wins over players like Faut, Max, Jojo, and Kingu. The low-tier hero for Europe has his work cut out for him as he's facing off against the endless amount of top tiers in attendance. Speaking of top tiers, Germany is sending their top spacies to represent the fast faller ideology. Falco main Irfan and Fox main Aster have been putting up domestic results, placing as high as top 3 at events like HTS Smash and Icemus. Next are the 2 sides of the same box coin, with Rix being the Fox side and Kinzo the Falco. Rix has had a pretty good year thus far, placing first at all 4 domestic events he's played in, as well as 9th at Avant La Fate, where he only lost to top European players Frenzy and Triff. Kinzo has been a little more inactive, having played in only 2 events this year. At Icemas, he lost twice to the aforementioned Aster for 3rd, however last year he placed an impressive 5th at HF LAN, going Game 5 with Professor Pro. Kinzo definitely has the skill to compete with Europe's best, and he just needs a chance or 2 to prove it. Outside of Madness, it seems the former French #1 Mahi will be one of the other 2 top Frenchmen in attendance, and he's coming off a hot streak of events. It would seem that only the current French #1 can stop Mahi, as he placed 2nd twice to Raoul. Mahi only has 1 out-of-region event this year, giving him the edge over any unsuspecting American, and this could allow him to make a deep run. The other Frenchman in tech is the Puff who seems to give Kingu a run for his money for best Puff in attendance. Having also been formerly ranked 1st in France, he continues to place top 3 at regional events, losing only to other top European mainstays. His biggest event so far was his win at Arca Mini 12, where he beat Ja Raiden twice. Outside of that, he's won a few monthlies here and there over the aforementioned Madness and the top EU Sheik Showtwin. Moving north to the Netherlands, aside from Skullbro, there's a trifecta of spacies and a pair of floaties that will be flying the Dutch flag. Jim Morrison and Happy Meals tend to be a bit lower in terms of placements at various Dutch events. However, Happy Meals has managed to net multiple wins over Skullbro and even a gold medal at one of the DSEA series events. Then there's Stin, whose results seem to be like a coin flip at this point. He continues to place highly at various Dutch events, having wins over Jim Morrison, Happy Meals, Skullbro, and the British Invader Max, but has also netted losses to Knuckles, Noon King, and the rest of the Upper Netherlands PR. The Dutch floaties of Renzo and Fout sit pretty behind Skullbro at the number 3 and 2 spots respectively as they sporadically attend events. Renzo seems to hold dominance at the various weeklies that his Marth attends, having wins over the bottom half of the Dutch PR as well as over the aforementioned Jim Morrison, Happy Meals, and Stin. Fout seems to have taken a drop in placings compared to last year, having yet to win a domestic event and dropping sets to the lower echelon of Dutch talent, but that doesn't mean that the Frame 1 Peach will not throw a wrench in any would-be Spacey's plans to make it far into the bracket. Finally, there are the Swedes, who in the past have given us players like one of the best doubles teams of all time in Armada and Android, as well as the Godslayer and recent LACS champion Leffen. Here at Fate, however, they're sending their current and former top players to prove that Sweden, despite its size, is still a powerhouse of the EU scene. Jade peaked at 5th in the Swedish PR, but has been relatively inactive since peering his head out occasionally for bigger events such as this. Placing 9th at both last year's Fate and DreamHack Rotterdam, he beat out fellow European talent like Brandspeed, Mo, Aster, and Max, only to go back into seclusion until this year's Fate. A recent Swedish duo has also been making waves internationally as both Sharp and Abe were given opportunities to travel to North America in 2022. Sharp reached highs like 33rd at Shine and 17th at Riptide, only to travel back to Europe and net a 5th place finish at DreamHack Rotterdam and 7th at HF LAN. This year, they managed to place 7th at Avant La Fate, where they beat out UK Chic Max before falling to Frenzy. Abe squeaked out the number 2 spot in Sweden and the 97th spot on the end-of-year rankings. Like Sharp, Abe took his talents to NA last year and placed 33rd at Shine and 25th at Riptide. While he managed to win the 100 entrant Myth 3, going on a crazy losers run beating out Max, Kingu, Frenzy, and Sharp twice, this year Abe has taken a step back to competing, as after placing 65th at Genesis, his first event was Smash Sauna, where his Marth sliced through Sharp and Solo Battle for 2nd, losing to Pipsqueak and Grands. Any of these Swedes could make the run of their lives and tear through the bracket to make it to Swedish number 1 and top 3 European player Pipsqueak. While the US is typically known for being the more competitive scene, here at Fate, the top seeds are from all over the world. Be it from Sweden, Spain, America, Australia, or Japan, any of these players could find themselves in top 8 or out at 13th given the strength of the listed European talent. The current number 1 in Sweden and 20th best player in the world, Pipsqueak, has taken a backseat to competition this year, having only attended 3 events. And while his dominance in Sweden seems more than well assured after going 12-0 at Smash Sauna, it remains to be seen how he does on any foreign soil. His only major so far is Genesis, where he placed 25th, beating out Panda and Bobby Big Balls before losing to Sunsei and Amsa. Will last year's silver medalist be able to repeat? Despite not currently living in Australia, Joshman will have to cross a different ocean in order to make it to Fate this year. While his 2023 has had its ups and downs, having placed 2nd at Combo Breaker and 13th at Battle of BC, he seemed to be figuring things out at LACS, placing 9th, where he went Game 5 with HBox and beat both Spark and Leffen. Will all the pieces finally be put into place at Fate? The Spanish Peach sensation Triff has seemed to hit his stride in recent months as he's traveled around the world racking up top wins. At his first trip to the US, he placed 2nd at the Nightclub Pre-Local, beating J-Flex and Hacks, and he followed it up with an impressive 9th place at Collision, beating B-Bat, Swift, and Crudo. He would then travel back to Europe and demonstrate his skill domestically, beating out Rix, Ja Raiden, and Nikki twice on his path to winning gold at Avant La Fate. His next 2 North American tournaments would be at Battle of BC, where he placed 7th, and LACS, where he placed 9th. There, he lost to Leffen, Mango, and Kadoran, all in Game 5 sets, but still managed to beat out Zamu and take a win over top 5 contender in Amsa. With Triff having to travel back to Europe to compete, he may have more of the crowd on his side than he did at LACS. The final Peach in attendance is Polish, and they have one of the weirdest years yet, placing 17th at the Super Major Genesis, beating Curve, Taj, and Panda, only to place 4th at M-Series, losing to Junebug's DK. Yeah, I know. Then they followed that up with a 13th place at Collision and Major Upset, beating Khalid, Null, and Crudo. But after a 5th place at Smash Camp and a 7th at Combo Breaker, Polish decided to show out at Tipped Off, upsetting both Cody and Axe to place 5th at the event. It would seem that while Polish drops the occasional set here and there, they only drop sets to those within top 50 contention. Plus, Polish is kind of a Fox main now, so there's that. As one of the 20 people in consideration for top 15, Aklo has managed to stay afloat in this rather tumultuous year for most. He's made top 8 at 3 out of 5 majors and continues to be the face of NYC Melee, winning the majority of nightclubs he attends. Pair that with wins on Spark, Fiction, Magi, and Moki, Aklo may be one tournament away from having the necessary wins to push him in the conversation for top 10. While the players formerly mentioned are all threats for top 8, these players right here are the favorites to win the whole damn thing. Not much has changed for Hungrybox, as his top 8 major streak continues chugging away, and LACS may have been the perfect de-rusting he needed, as he played 8 sets all against top 20 hopefuls. While his bracket demons of Zain and Cody continue to plague him, he did show signs of greatness, beating out Mango in their first set Game 5 and dominating the field per usual. While he did drop a game to Doc Lee and had some inconsistent play at times, Fate could give him the major victory he's been searching for since Riptide last year. After LACS, it has become apparent to Amsa and us all that there are a few bracket demons that this Yoshi has, and they are the pair of Foxes in Moki and Cody. And, well, Peach, also. Outside of them, however, it would seem that Amsa can beat out anyone else in his path. As mentioned in our last tournament preview, Amsa has stacked up so many regional wins that it takes 2 breaths for us to list. At Majors, he's only seen first place at Level Up Expo and DreamHack San Diego, with close seconds happening at the Come Up 2023 and Battle of BC5. This isn't to say you should count Amsa out, as without Cody and Moki attending, if he can solve the Peach matchup and beat out Jmook and Zain, he could see first once again. Alright, I know Zain didn't win LACS, but damn did he come close. Did you see that reverse 4-stock on Cody? Or the reverse 3-0 on HBox? Or the Game 5 clutch on HBox? Zain's run at LACS felt like he was doing everything right, and it looked like the Zain of 2022 where he was the #1 player. What this year's Zain and last year's Zain have in common is a potential Sheik problem. We saw Don't Test Us, and the Ices looked like they were doing some stuff, but if he wants to win this tournament, he may have to beat the best solo Sheik player in the world. Can I just copy and paste my spiel for Jmook from last week? No? But he got sick and it became irrelevant literal minutes after posting? Alright, sorry Mario. Jmook has been the #1 contender we knew he could be from last year, and after finally punching his ticket at Genesis, he's seen some unparalleled levels of consistency. While his last 2 tournaments have seen him drop some weird sets to Moth and the Loch Ness Falcon and Wizzy, Jmook feels like he's in a similar position as last year, only as a contender for #1 instead of a contender for top 5. If he can figure out his bad Sheik matchup, specifically Puff and Ices, he will be the clear favorite for this tournament and perhaps every tournament to come. But what do you think? Which European top player do you have tearing through the bracket? Which top player will be tasked with fighting a mid-tier? And the real question, who is going to win P+? This has been turndownforALT. Special thanks to our top tier patrons Avishua Stein, Bobby Wasabi, Dorian, Eric is Cool, Juniper, NNG Esports, Storm SSB, Storm, and Tingly Jungle for supporting the channel. Also want to give a very special shout out to Storm SSB and Hausi, who helped the Writers Guild out with the P+ section. And since you're still here, click on this. Do it.